Welcome back to Stand Up Your Tubes, where we control the tubes and the tubes do not control us. Isn't this a face that anyone would fall in love with? So I am putting this in my Can't Contain Myself playlist. I might change the name. Sometimes my son comes up with really catchy names, so I defer to him a lot of times. But somebody had asked me about making a something that had a cat that could hold remote controls. So I put my mind on overdrive and came up with this pattern. The face is just so cute. We're using pom poms, makes it really easy. A few tubes, and here's the side view. Cute little pom pom tail, cute little butt, just coming around. And I'm going to grab my own remote controls and show you how nicely they fit in here. And sits right down on the counter with them, which was what my friend asked for. I think it's just overload cute, and that you could put other things in it. Maybe magic markers, your loom pick, and all your crochet hooks. The sky's the limit. I have more ideas, so that's why I say it's going to be in a playlist. And look deeply into those eyes, because you know you want a cat container to control your mess. So I hope you'll stay tuned and watch the tutorial. It is so easy to make. It is just so adorable. I think that anyone who gets this for a Christmas present would love it. Look at its cute little feet and its little paws, furry little pom-pom paws. So it's going to just take some fur yarn, some supplies that I tell you about as we go along. And I'd like to ask you to please, when you watch this YouTube tutorial, turn on your closed captions, because when my son edits it and I go back and watch it and I say, oh, I wish I'd have told you this. If you have your closed captions on, you're going to see it on the screen. It'll be typed out at the bottom of the screen, any tips along the way. And also, if you click on the icon that looks like a gear, that is where you can speed the video up. If you want it to go a little faster, you can put it on 1.25. You can slow it down, and you can choose high definition over standard definition and get a better picture. So I hope you'll stay and watch this tutorial for this adorable cat container. God bless you. Margaret's House says also, God bless you for supporting us. Thank you. So during the tutorial, I said I would show you the little container, the first prototype that I made using the mayo jar. And so it's got the same cute little head, a couple little pom-poms up here, furry eyebrows, the same pom-poms for the face. This one I gave a cute little scarf with pom-poms in the end. It has the pom-pom feet with the little fur ruffs around it. And it has flowers in it because somebody said they loved sunflowers, and this reminded me of sunflowers. And this is the mayo jar. So it's very, very comparable to using this jar right here, this container. So it fell down. It's hung up in my yarn. That's what happened. So anyway, this is just the first one that I made. Here's a little side view of it. It's cute, and because it was a prototype, I made the container, I think, 6 inches tall, and I liked it better at 5. So it wasn't quite so tall, didn't come quite so far down. And that's what prototypes are all about, deciding what we want to do different. Oh, and also, if you like the little scarf around it, put a scarf on yours. Put a couple pom-poms on the end and dress it up. Put flowers in it. It's your container. So thank you. And now we'll move on to the tutorial. I'm so thankful that you are sticking around to see the tutorial and how we're going to get started. The original inspiration for the piggy banks and the piggy bank playlist was the mayo jar peanut butter jars because they're plastic. So they're safe for children. So my daughter gave me another mayo jar, and you can see how big it is. I'm going to make this video with my reading glasses on my head. It's 30 fluid ounce. And I made a remote control container using the mayo jar. And then I thought, wow, it'd be really cute if it had a flat, like ivy in it. Then it could be more than just a container that holds remote controls. So I went to Walmart last night and I found this. And what makes it perfect is it's under $3. It's $2.95 to $4.95 depending on what is inside of it. And it has straight sides. And that's so important because when we put our front and back feet on, we want them to be straight up and down. If you were using maybe a container that had cottage cheese in it, because I considered it, it's shaped a little bit like this, so those legs are going to want to go in, and then we'd have to put wedges. So these perfectly smooth sides are perfect. And this is right at 3 3/4, and if I measure across the bottom, it is 3.5. Across the top may not be exactly. I can measure this one. May not be exactly the same. It's 3 3/4. So it's such a slight little curve down that it's not even noticeable. So it's going to be perfect. So your decision is, do you want to take the flowers out and just have an empty container, or you can leave your greenery in. And I'll show you in the beginning one that has the greenery in and one that's holding remote controls, your crochet hooks. It'll be so adorable. So let's get started. Okay, so let's consider if we're using a mayo jar. Wash it out real good. You don't even need to take the label off, but measure up your 3.5 inches. And mine came, I don't know if the label goes on exactly the same every time, but where it says cage-free eggs, that's about where my line is. Maybe an inch down from the top here, but just measure it, get close. If you're off a 1/4 inch, it will not matter. So the first tube that we need to make is the one that's going to go around the container that I'm going to use today, because I'm going to show you it when I do the beginning, what it looked like going around the mayo jar. So we're going to make a tube, and I used pink fur, I've used gray fur, and I've used brown fur. This is number 3. So for the body, we're going to cast on with our 4-ply because we want to pull with the 4-ply and save our fur yarn. So if we cast on with our 4-ply, then go around 1 row. And of course, I like to set my my row counter, as I cast on before I get to my first black pin, so that I know what row I'm on. So when you cast on, the row that you crank around is your first row. So go around that 1 time and then cut your yarn off maybe 2 inches long and tie on your fur. And I like to tie it on in the beginning because the fur tail is so close to the cast on yarn tail that you can get them confused and tie that fur onto the wrong tail, and then you won't be able to cinch up the top of it. So then once you have your fur yarn tied on, crank it to row 27. Row 27, then tie on your 4-ply once again, because we want to make the circular base for either one of those containers out of the 4-ply. It's less stretchy and more sturdy. So crank around until you get to 33 rows and then cast off, and we're just going to cinch this up like a beanie. And this is going to be the wrong side because the fur goes to the inside. So secure this little opening here. Make sure you have your yarn tails securely tied together. So where it's on the outside, because this is really the inside, I just threaded up my needle and pulled the yarn tails to the inside right in here where I had tied them together. So I have this, Here's my yarn tails at the top, and here is the yarn that I would pull to snug that up. So let's secure this with a knot, and I'll join you right back. Okay, so my glue gun is heated up. I took a black Sharpie and just put a tiny little mark. So I know that this is going to be my front, this is going to be the back of my cat. So turn your container upside down, and with the fuzziest part in, and you've now cinched up the end here, and you've pulled both of your yarns to the inside, and I'm going to snip them off just a little bit shorter. What we want is for our container, when we put the legs and the chest and the head on, for the yarn not to be slipping up and down. So that's why we're going to put a little bead of glue right around here, and then just set this down onto it like this. That's going to secure the bottom. And this is prototype number 3, but I'm calling it the real thing right now. So I know that I want to do this. Just not that the other ones aren't wonderful, but I thought this might make it a little bit better. So I'm just putting a bead of glue around here. Just around this outside edge, so that when the weight of a remote or whatever goes in it, it won't shift the yarn. Just put my little ends in and lining it up here. And now I'm just going to slip my fur yarn down over it. And I did it this way because I don't want anything to get on the fur yarn. So now line it up along the edge of your bottom here. And you'll feel that the glue starting to secure it right here. So that'll make it nice and sturdy. And when we have weight on it, this won't be pulling up because it's going to be secured right around the bottom right here. Here's our little lines, just so we know. This will just curl up right over the top of it. And we could just peek back if we want to see what we're proclaiming to be the front or the back. And here's what we are left with. It's just so adorable. And my remote controls could go in just like this. Or they could be your crochet hooks. So that's how we start this for the furry body. So now with your glue gun still in, we're going to, where our marks are, we're going to just do a little U of glue right here. So when we secure our butt and our chest to it, that the fur isn't going to be sliding up and down on the container. So let's just do a little U shape here. Keep it out of your fur. I said that, then I got it in my fur. And just pull it up over. A little bit right here. And pull your fur out and up over. That's just extra little security measure. And you're still going to be able to see where your black is, your little dot right there. That's why we kept it right off the edge. So when we get ready to put the chest and the butt on, we're going to put it where we secured this so that it can't shift up and down as we put weight in it, because we want our legs to be firmly on the ground. Alrighty, so that's how we get our container ready. I'm going to shift it over to the side. Now this is all on our 22 pin. We got the body taken care of, so we're going to do our chest with 4-ply, and this is 90 rows. I used yarn B for the yarn B. I love this yarn, and this one really did work well. Not all their variegated yarn is happy being cranked out on our Addies or Centros, but this one was, and I apologize that I don't have the wrapper. I lost it. And it's going to take almost the whole small skein. And by a small skein, I mean that one that's like this, not the huge 1-pound one. So we fold it in half, just like we're making a beanie. line up our bottom edges, and this is going to go at the bottom of our container. This is our head up here. So we're going to be stuffing from the top down. So make sure you're lined up. And the first thing we're going to do is make sure this stays stretched out. We're going to get all of our yarn ends down to out through the bottom here. And making sure that you keep it stretched apart. We don't want to in any way suck it up, because these are the ears to our cat. So we want to just whip stitch this closed. And when I get mine whip stitched closed, I'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to do the ears. But if you start with a long yarn tail and just put a single knot and leave your yarn tail, you can then use that to sew down and do the ear. And then when I come across to here, if I have a long enough yarn tail, I can use it to come up. And I can do it all with one piece of yarn. So I'm going to get myself a nice long piece and show you how we'll get started. Okay, so I just whip stitched across the top. Didn't even do a mattress stitch, because by the time we adorn our ears and do all of that, it's not even going to be noticeable. So I left a nice long yarn tail right here. I have a nice long yarn tail right here. And then I'll show you how I keep my ears on each side the same size. So I have one of those little index cards, and to make an ear, and I save this, I use it over and over. I measured from the corner over 1.5, down 1.5, just put a ruler on it and cut my corner off. 1.5, 1.5. This is like maybe 2.25. I didn't measure it. But we're going to put it into the corners of our tube this way, and then flip it over and do it this way, and just sew straight up this way. Or actually, if you're up here, you can either come over to here and make a little knot, your choice. Come right to here, make a knot and sew down and tie it off. Or what I usually do is run it down this way, tie a little knot, and come up to the top. So that it's your choice how you're going to do that. You're just going to go with your needle straight down, go to the other side, straight up, straight down, straight up. So you're just going this way with your needle until you get the ear sewn. What I like is if I come down and sew up, come down and sew up, then I have my yarn tails up here at the top, and I can work them and tie them together. But what we don't want to do is cinch this up. We want it to stay apart. So I'll join you back when I have my ears stitched. Well, one more little tip. Tie a single knot right here, and then I work my way down, and so I don't distort the ear. I'm right here. I'm going to tie another single knot right here, and make sure I'm not drawing down the ear tip. So a knot right here, and then start sewing up. So you're not distorting your ear tips. So I thought I just saw this laying there that I'd show you that this is Yarn Bee for the Moment in soft pink. Yarn Bee has browns, grays, white, pink, but they don't have the colors like yellow and some of the colors that you can get off Amazon. And I use the Amazon all the time. This is $6.49, and every other week they put it 30% off, and you don't use very much of this at all. So this, when I did my tube out of this, I have all of this left. But this is optional if you choose to do it. And that's to put the fur around the tips of the ears. I think it just makes it just so much cuter. So while my glue gun is still hot, I'm going to leave myself like a 1/2 inch to hold on to, get my fur up to the top of the mesh that it's embedded into, run a little bead of glue from where I started my ear up to the tip, and just lay this into it. And keep your bead small. You don't want it to be messy. And come out. I have a little loom pick here, right to the tip, ready to use to tap that mesh strip down into my glue. So by having a little handle on it, I don't have to touch it. And then I can just press like this into the glue. I'll come back and clip off the long tail after it's dry. And at this point, I can actually put my finger onto it and push down. It's just such a cute look to have the furry ears. Now, by leaving my two little yarn tails here, where I came up with my little yellow marker and I tied, this is where I don't want to put yarn so that I have separation of the ear. So I'll just leave these here for a minute and go ahead and cut this off, but leave myself enough that I can hold on to it and be laying the mesh. And if you haven't used yarn fur before, it's like this. It's really sturdy, but it's like almost like a crochet chain or something that the yarn is embedded in. But it's about a 1/16 of an inch wide, so it makes it work to glue this like this. So coming right up to where my yarn came out, a nice thin bead of glue right up to that yarn tail, and just lay the mesh part into it. Get my loom pick, press it down along that seam. After it's all dry, if you notice a little place where it didn't seem like it adhered quite good enough, you can just put a tiny little bead of glue underneath there and press down. But now we have a furry little ear tip. And just to get this out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and snip this one off. And that is where my ear ends. Once I bury this yarn tail, I can clip that a little better. And then I would just come down and clip this tip. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Come down to where I started, and snip them off. And now I have beautiful furry ears. So I have cat eyes that I ordered off of Amazon. And I'm just looking at one of my prototypes, and I believe I can't really tell if it's 15 millimeter or 16 millimeter, but it's going to be so close. So I'm going with pink. I wanted to go with blue, but I only had 2 eyes sets left, and I can't find my second blue eye. And then another set that I ordered that actually became unavailable for a while, and then I noticed that it was again available, was a round pupil, same size, and it had a complete eyelid that went around it, upper and lower. So I take a black Sharpie and I make it black because it pops better. This is completely optional, but I think it just makes it look a little more finished. So I'm going to pop this around my eye. I'll give you links of the eyes that I've ordered, and I really like it that 2 sets that I ordered had the little card in it that you could measure the sizes. So this is going to be what it looks like when it goes on. And we need to line it up where we're going to put it. And in order to do that, let's go ahead and do our over, under around where the neck is going to be cinched up. So we have a guideline where we're going to put our mouth and our eyes. So just take your needle and count down. If you're off by 1 row, it is not going to matter. From your center point, just start counting your V-stitches down, and I counted down 20. And then this is just going to be where we go over a row, under a row, over a row, under a row, all the way around. And when you get back to the center, just leave your yarn ends loose, because we're going to put our eyes, place our face on it, and then stuff it, and then we'll cinch this up. But we'll have our cord in place while it's still easy to count down 20 rows. All right, so I'm a fan of the pom-poms that I get at Hobby Lobby. I've also ordered them off Amazon. So this is the big 2-inch. I believe this is 1.5 inches. It's hard to measure a pom-pom. This might be 1 inch. This is just a little tiny one. So I'm, for my muzzle, picking this next size down, and you can see, then I'm going to this next smaller one. I really feel like they might say that that's 1 inch. And then this one I'm not going to use. So these are the 2 sizes I'm using. And because I'm using the yarn with the pinks in it, I'm going to use a little white bottom lower lip. I'm going to push these in to make the little muzzle and then nestle this down into the V to make an adorable little nose. And we have to also have room to get our eyes in here, because here's where we sewed up. So our eyes could be right above the muzzle here and here. So I think that's going to work out. So let's get our muzzle on, bearing in mind where we cinched up that we're going to be pulling that close for the neck. So let's place our little lower lip. We're going to use our glue gun a lot. So maybe a finger above where you're cinching, just push that little lower lip on. And we're really pushing these together. So when we put this on, we're nestling that lower lip. So we just get that little shape coming down. So don't use too much glue. It's not necessary. It'll bubble out and cause problems. Pressing that down in. Lift this one up, a little circle of glue. Nestle it down in. You're pushing it all together to give the little snout. And when you push the nose in, you're literally going to pull this apart and really push that nose down into the opening that you can make when these two pom-poms come apart. Get it down in there. If you look at a cat's nose, it doesn't pop up. It's nestled down into its little furry cheeks. So there we have a really cute little adorable cat face. Now we can reach in here and place our eyes right above our muzzle. So I just had a bow in here so I could neaten up my ends. And find a place that you like your eyes. I like mine pretty close to the little muzzle. Line them up. Make sure if you're using cat eyes that your irises are going up and down. Here's where I sewed the ear, so I'm below the ear. So I'm going to position these, pop them through the holes, make sure that they really do line up and look straight and evenly placed with my snout. And I can see that I need to work with this just a little bit more. This one looks a little higher. So I'll raise this one up one. And then pop the backs on nice and secure. And when you get your eyes positioned, we'll come back and do a little stuffing. Okay, so I have a cute little face going here. And I'm just going to open up my pom-pom right here where everything came together, put one little drop of glue in there, and then pushing my nose down, pushing my cheeks over. I'm just closing that up. One more little dab. Goes so easy on your glue. Don't overdo it. It just doesn't take anything to secure these pom-poms. And you just don't want it rolling out and making hard edges. Okay, so that's a face that anyone could love. And it's ready to be stuffed. Keep your glue gun handy. We're not done yet. Okay, so off camera, look how cute those ears are. I stuffed up into the head, and because we didn't tie a knot here, I stuff, and you really do want to get a lot of stuffing up in there. And as I was getting my stuffing up and making sure the head is rounded out, the more stuffing I got in there, then I just cinched this up over a little more than even 2 fingers, tied a little bow so I can keep getting that face stuffed out, because you don't want a wimpy, unstuffed head. And this is really sturdy yarn. And as I got my head more and more the way I wanted it, and if you want to, you can even kind of roll this bottom up like this so you're not pulling your yarn tails up in there. when I got it, really well stuffed, because one of my prototypes, I did not get the head stuffed out enough, and I ended up opening it up right between the ears so I could put more stuffing in and be happy with the head. So see how nice and big it is? We want our little alley cat to have a head. Then I cinched it up even a little bigger than 2 fingers, because we don't want a wobbly head with a little skinny neck that wobbles. So we want the stuffing to stay up in there. And I'm just going to continue stuffing, but not quite as much as I put in the head, all the way down to the end of my body tube. Oh, I just dropped my stuffing down on the floor, so that we get a chest. Now at this point, you can hold it up onto your container and see if you like how it looks. And if you do, then go ahead and cinch up the bottom of your beanie. The head is really the most important part. Okay, so here's what mine looks like. And now I'm going to cinch this neck up just a little snugger, tie another bow for now. While I'm just looking at it, make sure I like it. And when it goes where we put our little black mark, that's where we're going to line this up, and that's going to become the chest and head of our adorable container. Now we have to have feet, and when I saw these at my grocery store in Texas, H-E-B, they're just smoothie straws, and it says Our Goods. I don't know if that's their brand or not, but they're this size, and this one I've already cut down to 6 inches. So if I put my measure on it, it looks like it's about a 1/2 inch. Then they had these straws that are called jumbo straws. So we have smoothie straws, 40 quantity, jumbo straws, 250. And I bought them both because they were 99 cents. So the way I'm making my feet, and here's one already in the tube that I make. We're going to make 4 tubes. So we're going to do the 2 front legs a little different than the 2 back legs. So let's get our 2 front legs ready. So we're going to make 4 tubes, 22 rows with our 4-ply. Then we're going to really stretch it over our tubes. So I've cut them off at 6 inches. Now, this is where your artistry comes in. If you're using a yarn that's more stretchy, you might have to cut it a little bit longer, or you might have to cut it a 1/4 inch shorter. But I can get 6 inches into my tube. So I'm taking 3 of these together, 3 of the little straws, and just pushing them up into my tube. And now I have a really sturdy leg. Isn't that amazing? I love it when things like this happen. You just see something. It's really easy to push that up. Just getting it all the way to the end here. And now I can snip these off. Just like this. And yeah, we could use a wooden dowel or wooden chopsticks or something, but then we'd have to have some kind of saw to cut it with. And with this, all we need is scissors. And here is going to be the tube that goes inside my leg and makes a sturdy little leg for my container to rest on. So I had a lot of pink in this one when I cranked it out, so I'm going to go with this one. These are a little more muted, so I'm going to use those on the back. Not that it would have mattered. But I'm going to put my Slurpee and smoothie straws down on the floor. So all we're going to do is really stretch this out. Really stretch it out, because we need it to go over 6 inches or 5 3/4. It's not going to be a deal breaker. We're going to put a little knot on this end, a little knot on this end. You can see that we're going to be stretching this over this straw like this. We're going to knot both ends and then fold it up over the straw and decide which way your V-stitch is going to go, whether the points go this way or this way. And we're going to just do a neat little mattress stitch with this in it And as we get to the end, we're going to be stretching it over the end to make it nice and snug so we have really snug feet. So that's going to be so easy. Do your 2 front ones and leave your back ones for a minute so I can show you how we're going to make a cute little butt. I'll be right back when I have this one, and then we'll have the 2 front ones, and we're going to put our front on. All right, so I had already done the first leg, so I've mattress stitched up my tube. I already have my 3 little straws in here just to make it more secure, because somebody might put a lot of weight in here that we're not expecting to have happen. Now, if you can get it to go up over the end of your tube, you're good with 6 inches. If you can't, if you really just can't stretch that up over that, then take a 1/4 inch off, even maybe a 1/2 inch off, until you can get it over your tube for your yarn. So this end's already been knotted. I'm going to pull my mattress stitch closed all the way down to the end. And I want to make sure it closes all the way to the end. And it actually wants to pull the circle of the beanie up. I'm going to take my last stitch down here into the part where we cinched, because I stopped a stitch short so I'd be able to get my tube in. I'm just going to bring it up to the top, pop out right on where I'm going to be cinching. Oh, I got my yarn ends intertwined. Frustrating. Come over to here, come out at the top. To get this completely closed up, make sure my tube's all the way in. And I can tie this off. I made it with 6-inch insert tube. But surely it's not going to, I mean, really, it's not going to make a difference if yours is a 1/4 inch shorter, a 1/2 inch shorter. But I think we can get the 6 inch in there. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this one, and I'll show you how we're going to put it on. Okay, so now I still have my little bow in the front of my neck. This is tied off because I like the stuffing. I'm pretty sure I got the head firmly stuffed, that it's got a cute little profile. And now come to your jar where we marked our black spots, and that's going to be the center front or the center back. And just pull your yarn back down a little bit now, so you can see where that is, and that's going to be the center of where we're going to put this on. So I'm going to put one more little bit of glue in here up to my black, so that everything right along the edge here, so everything stays secure and my yarn is not shifting. Pull this up over so it can wrap up over the edge here, because we're going to snug up the cord that we pulled with, so keep it handy for the end. Okay, so now we know that this is the center. And isn't this wonderful? In order to secure this in place, we're going to glue it. So let's bring this, I'm still keeping my finger on here. I could even put my needle right here so I don't lose track of where that black was. And I know it's still straight across from here, so that's the center. Just rolling this up to make sure it stays up. Put a little bead of glue along the edge here, secure it, bringing it up so that it curves to the inside and gives us a cute little furry edge. We'll do a halfway around this way, and then we'll get the rest of it when we're getting ready to do the back feet. So I'm holding the fur out away from it, putting a bead of glue across the top, pulling it up and over so that I can have enough to wrap on the inside edge there. And that'll dry quickly. Wherever your yarn tail is, you can poke that to the inside as you're coming around. Now I can still see my black dot back there, and I know that this is my front. So to make this really easy to sew on, we're going to glue it on first, and then we'll have down through the center here, and then we have our edges here, and we're going to put our feet on so that we're standing up, and we'll start mattress stitching around. Okay, so everything is secure on the bottom. We like what we see. Here's our center point where our pin's coming up. So let's take our cat body and do a U shape and keep it off the edges where you're going to be, we're using a lot of glue sticks. So let me put my next glue stick in because I'll probably need it. Not quite ready for it. Okay, so stay back down off this neck area at least a couple fingers, because when you just set it right down on your table, you'll see that your neck is up past the edge here. So let's come back at least 2 fingers and run a nice bead of glue all the way to the about a fingerful from the bottom. And now I need that other glue stick. Okay, so this is just on the table. Bring your yarn tails from out this way and just back it up into it and press it on. So you're on the table, your cup is on the table, the bottom of your chest is on the table. And by doing this, it's going to make it so much easier to keep it lined up and to sew around it. Let's let that dry. And while that's drying, I'm going to set it off to the side. And you'll want to have something down to protect your table, which is why I have my cutting board again. So we have our two legs just ready to go. So we're going to do our back legs. We want to have a cute little butt. So we're going to mattress stitch, and this one I had already cinched up because I was going to use it for one of the legs and then didn't. So I'm just going to uncinch it, roll my pull strings to the center so that I can keep them out of my mattress stitch I'm about to do. So I'm going to just line up my tops, and I'm going to go under 1 bar, and then do 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7. And that is going to start forming our butt. So let's go down 1, 1, and then 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, and I'll join you back. Okay, so I threaded up my needle, and when I go under my first bar, I'm going to leave myself a yarn tail that's I can bury or tie off to if I choose to, and tie a knot here. And then that's 1, 1. My V's are going this direction, but it doesn't really matter. And then it's just 2, 2, 3, 3 until you get down. And then I'll join you back. Okay, so this is my 7 bars. 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7. And I'm just snugging it up, but leaving it here for just right now. And I have my 6-inch outer tubes. I've inserted my 3 little ones into it, and now I'm just cutting it off to even up the edges. 1. So easy to cut. Okay, so now I have my 2 tubes, and we're going to mattress stitch up to here. And we'll insert our tubes in here. And then when we sew it onto our butt, we're going to have it widen it out just a little bit. I'll show you how to do that. So let's start. I'm going to take my needle off this one right here because I want to be able to fine tune it right here if I want to. So no knot. Closing this up, and I'm going to stitch up coming this way and then insert my tubes. So a little single knot here at the bottom of the tube. Mattress stitch up until I reach where this comes out. I'm going to do both of them, and I'll join you back. And as I get ready to stitch, I want to stay in the same row that I mattress stitch in coming down, so I have a nice, so if I come out right here on a V-stitch that's, the tip goes that way, then that's the one I'm sewing up in. So I'll join you back when I have both sides done. Our mattress stitches are what make it look pretty. So let's keep the rows consistent. Okay, so by doing it this way, because we don't have this chest in here before we put our legs on, it's going to allow us to have a little butt and our legs coming down. And so when I get my tubes in, I'll snug up. I've already snugged up this mattress stitch coming up, but I'll secure this one. We'll round off the top. So I'm going to go ahead and take my needle off all these threads and insert my tube down in both of these. Stretching it down. Okay, now in this instance, I might have to cut off a little bit, so I'm going to cut off about this much so that I can get my tube around it. Same amount on this side. Okay, and now I was able to bring it up over the top. And by securing this top up, I can wrap it around the top of my tube and get it to stay put. And then we'll take a couple stitches right here. So let's get this one in. This is not difficult, boy, but there's a lot of strings hanging around right now. Okay, so we got them both the same size. If you can get yours in at 6 inches, yay for you. Okay, so now we just have them, and you can see the mattress stitch coming apart. We have the ability now to kind of bring these legs apart just a little bit and give them a stance so that we're secure. And we didn't have to do a tube in the center here. We're just doing it like this. Okay, so let's put this aside and come to the front. So we're going to take our two front legs that we've already made and put the strings up. And we want the mattress stitch to go towards the body so it doesn't really show where we pulled it. And it's going to come up onto our kitty cat like this. And we want to make sure that when we put the butt on, that we're standing straight. This is just too cute. I'm just over the moon at how cute it is. And to make it easy on ourselves again, we're going to hold your finger, have it up at even with the top of your jar, and your neck comes up just a tiny bit more. Hold your finger where the bottom of the jar is like this to mark it and run a bead of glue here. Not on your strings. Keep your strings up. Sorry, my allergies are so bad. And just nestle that down into here. And here's where I'm counting on you to make sure that your feet are level. So when this is dry, stand it up, place your other one, and make sure that before you glue it, that you're going to have level feet. So this looks pretty level to me. Mine is just a tiny bit over the top of my container. That's how it ended up going, and that's fine. Okay, one more test to make sure that my legs are going to stand straight. That looks good. So I'm going to hold it right here, nestled into my chest, and lift this leg up just enough to get a bead of glue under here to hold that until I can glue the rest of it up. And I feel pretty confident that I've got the feet planted firmly on the ground. So I'm going to go off camera and just let this dry for 90 seconds and I'll be right back. Okay, so the glue is barely holding it, but it's keeping my leg in the right position. So I'm going to roll this leg back get my glue going down into the yarn and where the yarn and my fur come together and press it down in there. And we're still going to do some sewing, but this is holding it all in place for us. And that is just one cute kitten. Okay, so we have some yarn tails. Let's pick what we're going to sew with. So I'm going to go ahead and get you started. We have 2 yarn tails and they're long because we cinched up the end of our beanie. So now I'm going to pick a row on my body and I'm going to mattress stitch down so that we get a good secure join. So 2 bars. If you can get into some stuffing on your chest area, even better. And then pick the row on your V-stitches, how they're going to point, and just come down onto your leg. Pick a row, and come down until you get not into this curve of the beanie, but when you're just straight, because this is going to be sewn down across the front of the chest. So I'll join you back when I have both of my legs sewn to the chest. I'm just sewing down, and because you've stretched your leg tube out so snug over the straws, you might find that you need to go under 3 rows on your chest to 1 or 2 rows on your leg. But it's all glued together, so we're really just going in wherever our needle comes out. We're just securing this together. So wherever your needle comes out on your leg, go into your V-stitch on your chest, and then come out. And now it's secured. Easy as that. And we'll just leave this hanging for now and flip it over and do the other side. So that's how, since it's glued on, wherever it's touching, that's where you sew. It's not so important that we do 2 bars, or anything like that at this point, because we've stretched our leg really snug over the straw and distorted it compared to how the V-stitches are on a chest tube. So there's no concern there. Okay, so really snug these yarn tails up, and the 2 that I tied the bottom of the chest, I call it a beanie because it's like we made a beanie. I'm just going to bury them up into my tube. I've already knotted them off, and we don't need them, so let's just get rid of them. I'm telling you, this Hobby Lobby, I love this yarn. Feels so good. And I use the Red Heart Super Saver a lot, and it's great for animals because it's a really sturdy yarn, but this just feels good. And my feet look pretty level. Yes, yes, yes. So now I can take my yarn and bring this part down over where you pulled it to get a nice edge, and let's whip stitch that to this ring on the jar right here. So I'm just going to use my yarn that I was mattress stitching with down the leg. Nice and snug. Tie a little knot before I start. Just a single knot. And neatening up this front edge by pulling this down like this, and you won't even, it'll just make a little rounded shape here, and you won't even see where you cinched your beanie together. So that's the look we're getting right there. And I know I say it over and over, but when you're stitching into your fur yarn, if you get into the mesh, it's very, very difficult to pull it through. So you might want to just back your needle out and give it another try. It's the head of the needle that won't go through. So I'm just coming up, and I'm in it. I'm going to see if I can muscle my way through. There we go. I'm now sewing where I tied my 4-ply on, so I'm going right there at the join and bringing this down. Looks really good, a really nice look there. Take my one last stitch, and now I can tie on to the yarn that I mattress stitched down with. And that's another way to get a really good snug fit. So making sure this one's pulled nice and snug, coming across, and going to tie this in a good double or triple knot. And the front of our cat is done, so let's bury this thread and move on to the butt. Okay, so we're so close to putting the back legs on. I went ahead and buried that other yarn tail from cinching the beanie top up, and now we just want to pull this leg down into position, roll it back off of our fur. We do not want our glue to pop out. Run another bead of glue right along this edge here. Don't come down too far. And let's glue that. And that should be nice and secure, because this glue, if you've ever tried to glue two pieces of tubes together and then decide to change your mind, you're not getting it apart. So I know this is sturdy, and we've mattress stitched down the front here, so our leg is secured to our chest. All right, that is nice and secure in there, so I'm going to roll this one back, staying off of my fur. Roll it back away from it a little bit, and get that bead of glue in here. And bring this cup up so it's not, distorted, so it's nice and up. And just let all that dry and keep your glue gun going, because we're going to glue on our back legs and then mattress stitch around the outside edges of them. So I'll be back when this is dried. Let's finish gluing around the top of our jar. Stay back about 1/4 inch off the edge, bringing your fur yarn up over it so that it can roll in, because we still have to cinch up the top of our beanie up here. Not very much, but a little bit. Here's our yarn tail that we can just, it's the one that's tied onto the 4-ply. This is the one we're going to pull with for that top. So I'm going to tuck that down in here. I haven't made it all the way around to the back yet. I can still see my little black mark here. So I want to bring it and secure it around to my black mark. I'll still be able to see that. Make sure I have the yarn tail that cinches out and not the one that I tied onto the 4-ply with. So just rolling this back, little bead of glue, pull it up over it, because we do want it to wrap the inside of that jar so we have a fuzzy little edge. Okay, so here's our butt right here with our little mattress stitch coming down. Our yarn tail ends, everything's fluid right now because we haven't tied anything. And we're going to position it onto the butt of our kitty cat. Make sure that when we secure the butt, and it should be pretty close to the very, very top up here, that our legs are even on the table. So I'm going to let this dry just a little bit more where I've done the top of this and the legs, and I will come back and we'll be gluing on the butt, and then we just need a tail and a couple other little adornments. So I'll be right back. Let's finish up. So we have 3 yarn ends on our little cat butt. And remember, we are doing it this way so we can spread them apart and get a good stance. It's not going to be sturdy or stable if they're together. So let's make sure this mattress stitch yarn end, that the mattress stitch is snug. this one's snug, the mattress stitch coming down this way is snug, then I tied them together. So I took the mattress stitch that came up this leg and tied it to the one that came down this way. Then I took the one from this one and still tied it onto this one. They're all nice and snug together so that when we pull it apart, that this is snug, everything's tied together. I'm going to bury all 3 of these yarn ends. Now let's do the same thing at the top. So this was where we first tied on our yarn tail so we could mattress stitch down. So it's got a knot in it, it's secure. We want to make sure that these are cinched up really snug over the top of our straws. And I'm going to tie this yarn tail from pulling the beanie to this center one. Get it nice and snug. This one from this beanie pull to the same yarn, really snug. And what we're doing is we're making our butt. Whoops. So keep it snug and tie this knot. Okay, see how it pulled it together? And we can still get our legs apart. And we have a tail going on right here. So I'm going to just give this one more knot. And bury all but one of these yarn tails. Well, I'll keep them both out. I think I'll sew this way, coming around the butt. Or we can just, there we go, just push it in. Now let's go to the top of our container, and here's our yarn that we pull with if we were to snug the beanie up. And when you snug on it, pull on it, you'll see a lot of slack come out of it, but we don't want to pull it so that it comes up off the container. We're just snugging it up. And let's knot it off and bury the thread. So just come into the edge of it right here so that it can't come undone. Knot it off. The fur will cover it nicely. And another thing we can do before we go any further so we don't forget is if everything looks good on your neck, let's take that bow out. Give it an extra little cinch if you need to, just to make it a nice size. And give yourself a little double or triple knot, and let's bury those yarn ends. And we're ready to glue the butt on to hold it in place, and then we'll do a little bit of sewing, and then we can decide if we're going to do any fine tuning. I already know something I'm going to do on my cat's eyes. All this little fur adornment and whatnot is up to you. So now we have 2 yarn tails coming out of the top of our leg. We buried everything else. We can splay it apart. So we're going to hold it onto the back of our butt, get ourselves level so that all 4 of our feet are on the ground. Look at it from different angles. Just keep pinching it on at the butt. Okay. So now to hold it into place, one more check. Okay. That's pretty good. I'm going to roll it up on its snout and just roll this leg back and run a bead of glue, and I need them separated. Just, can you see right there off to the left? So a bead of glue coming down. I need another glue stick, I'm telling you. That glue stick went so fast. So I'm going to jump up, get another glue stick, maybe add some more glue right there, glue the other one up, and then we'll sew around the outside. We can't sew into the V, it'd be too difficult. So let me come back and we'll do a little more glue and a little sewing. Grabbed a couple more glue sticks, and I'm going to just roll this up and get a little bit up here at the top. Push it down into that glue. Make sure my legs are still separated. Whoops. Stand it up one more time. Make sure that it's got a good little stance to it. Pretty cute. I'm holding my finger right down in between the legs, rolling this one back. Some glue on it, pressing it down in. Testing its feet. Okay, so now we have 2 yarn tails. I'm going to sew down the outside of the leg, down the outside of the leg. I'm going to go pick a row on my leg to sew into. I'm going to go into my fur yarn, and you can't see the stitches. The fur hides everything. So wherever you're touching, that's just where you're going to go in. And you're not going to be able to count bars. So just pop that needle up, then go back into the leg, 2, 3, whatever it takes. Go back in, and you'll put your finger down on your tube and try to come up on top of your fingernail, or use a needle with a little curve on it. So I am going to start coming across the top. We have a tail going on. So I have one of my yarn tail ends just coming back down into my fur yarn. Try not to go in the mesh that the fur's attached to, but sometimes it's hard to figure out where that is. Coming down a couple rows on my leg, but I am staying in the same row, so it comes down on to my fur tube nice and snug. I'm going to get right to the bottom, just leave that yarn tail for a minute, do the other side, just leave the yarn tail, and then we'll secure everything. I'll be back when I have, keep your legs apart. When you come down both sides, I'll join you back. I'm coming down the second leg and being mindful to keep them spread, and that I'm going at an angle on the fur part of it. So be mindful of that, that you're staying at the V. It's easy to just lose track and just be going in and out, and be straightening that leg up instead of spreading it out into a V shape. Nice and snug on our yarn tails. Come popping out here at the bottom. I'm going to get one more in my leg, right at the bottom where my container starts. All right. And because of the shape of the container, the legs come in just a little bit, but we splayed them out, so we've got a pretty secure little stance right here. So we're going to go hold our legs to the bottom of the container, sew across the bottom, sew this one across the bottom so they can't do this, sew them down right here where the fur starts on our 4-ply, and when we get to the center, we can, without bringing them together, we can take a couple extra stitches and tie them off in the center here. So I already have my needle on right here, so I'm going to come on the bottom right here, tie a knot on the outside edge, making sure that my mattress stitch is nice and snug. A single knot. And another knot. And now I'm coming under my V-stitches on my little leg. Going into the 4-ply where it meets the fur. Another one, just to keep the leg from being able to flop at all. Another one to get to the center. Pop out right at the center here. I got in my mesh, oh, but I pulled it through. Nice and snug. Bring the other one to the center, and I'm going to tie this off and bury my threads. So I'm going to work this other leg, just 2 or 3 stitches underneath the leg. All Right, so I sewed across so that my yarn ends met, and I'm going to tie them. So I know it's going to be nice and secure. And I can get a really good triple knot in there. Bury the yarn tails. And I'm going to show you, just in case you have a little wobble in your feet, how we can shim it just like when we're at the restaurant and we put that sugar pack under the table leg when it's moving around on us. We're going to do something similar to this if we need to. Okay, so burying that yarn tail, stand it up. Should be looking pretty good. Here we are. I'm going to take this yarn tail and tuck it in. Might have to use my needle because we glued right around there. But remember, we've already knotted that, so we're just beating it out where we can hide it. And it can come to the outside and just be hidden in the fur. Now, snip that off. Before we call it done, we're going to just make sure that we can do it right now. Just put little dabs of glue inside and wrap your fur around onto it so it stays down. And that should do it. We have a container that needs a tail. So I've already made my tail, and I'll show you how I did it. So I started off with my yarn that matched my body, did 12 rows with my 4-ply. Then I tied on my fur yarn and cranked it till I had completed my 16th row. I tied on my 4-ply again so I'd have something to pull with, tied it onto that fur yarn, went around one more time and cast off. So now I have my yarn ends here. So we can just pull it out to make it, stretch that tube out, snug up into a beanie, the end that's going to be on our kitty cat. This is a big furry mess right here, but we're going to take care of it. So we can take our yarn ends and pull them to the inside. We need to have the one right here that we are going to pull with to close up. I'm off camera, but we're going to close up this end and this end and roll it, get rid of your fur tail ends, take them to the inside, and we're going to roll it, stitch down till we get to the fur, and then we're going to stop and let this just stay a nice little pom-pom. So make sure that you had tied your yarn ends together when you switched your colors, so there's no mistaking that you did or didn't. Double check it. Cinch up both sides ends of the beanie, so up to the fur, knot it off, and don't cut your yarn tail, and we'll sew on the tail. I have all the yarn tails tucked in, and I'm just going to pull on this 4-ply and close up the tip of my tail right here. Put a knot in it. Then take this piece of yarn and pull it back into the tail, burying it. Okay, so we're going to make sure we're not pull it nice and snug. You might want to put your finger into the center of your beanie so you can make sure that it's closed up and you don't feel an open hole there. And put a little double knot in the end, keeping it shut. Go. And pull it up, snip it off. This yarn tail can just go And this yarn tail can just be rolled up into the center. So we're going to cinch this one up, tie a little knot on the end. Cinch it up. Little knot to hold that end of the beanie closed. Rolling our yarn tails to the inside here. You're on the wrong side. So it's, I think we would call that the purl side. So roll it in, and you can just mattress stitch up or just whip stitch up. I'm just whip stitching because this is going to be the underneath side of my tail. So I'm just doing it like this because I can't really see my stitches very well on this side. Just getting it closed up. All the way to where the fur starts. And there's no reason to go any further because it just really can't open. It's just such a tight little ball of fur on the end down there. So come right to where they change from 4-ply to fur. Put a knot here. If your yarn is long enough, and I suspect it is, just feed it back down to this end so you can use it to sew the tail on. Tie a knot so you're not distorting your tail. And now place it on where the little V is, where the little butt cheeks come together. You're going to put it right on top of that. Let me roll so you can see it. Okay, so come under your V-stitch on your tube. Come up here and grab a chunk of your tail. Come back down into a V-stitch. Down a little bit onto your butt, not on the very, very top of your tube. Here, and be positioning it. Now I'm jumping over a V-stitch on both legs. That's the center. Bring it over. And you'll see how we're just closing it up. And go all the way around and look at it and make sure that it's, even. When you come back around, maybe go around a second time. I'm going to tie it off on this end where it's going to be least likely for a yarn not to show. That's K-N-O-T, the K-N-O-T to show. Okay, so now I've made it to my front edge here, and I'm going to take another stitch up onto my tail, back off from where we cinched it, so I'm coming up maybe one row. And I want to bring it down towards my fur yarn so I can't see into the crack where all 3 tubes come together. So I'm bringing it up onto my jar and see how that's closing that up. Coming back into my tail because we want it to be professional looking. Coming back up onto where my fur yarn is at the edge of my jar again. I can tell I'm in the mesh. Oop, and I got it through. Okay, and so that closes it up so we have a nice finished look. I need to keep coming around the rest of the way. Sewing up over the top edge of my tube here. Back in the fur mesh. So you're looking at it, you're covering up where the top of the 3 tubes came together. And it's giving you a nice little tail popping up there. It's going to make sure your Slurpee straw stays in there. How nice does that look? It just goes right into the V. And I'm not going around a second time. There's absolutely no reason to do that. It's so secure. snugging everything up. Here's where I started, so I'm back where I started. I'm going to take another stitch up into the tail, tie a knot, and bury my yarn end. And take it up this way probably. There we go. You could proclaim that you are done because look what you have. It's adorable. It'll definitely hold remote controls. Has an adorable little tail. Let me show you. My remote controls are in it. Or crochet hooks. Maybe some crochet hooks in your loom hook. Magic markers, pencils. You decide. But now we can step it up. And do you want to have pom-pom feet? So there is an opportunity right here. If you are not secure, you could take, say you have one leg that's just a tiny bit short and you just wished it was up a little bit like this. You could take a penny and hot glue a penny under the foot that's causing the problem. So I think I'll do that just to show you. So I actually did feel like this foot here was just a little bit short, and that's because it's hard to keep it perfectly lined up, rolling it back, putting the glue in. We can get really, really close. But I just felt like it was rocking this way a little bit, and when I put the penny under that foot, it's now sturdy. So I'm going to put In God We Trust. It's going to be the side I put down because I do trust in the Lord. Put a little bead of glue right there and just lower my cat right down onto that. And now it truly is sturdy. How amazing is that? And you might, my dogs, they think they hear something outside. If you were wanting to, and I think I might, put a penny under each one, put a double penny under this one, then it gives you like little clicky feet to stand on that are really secure. So if I have 5 more pennies, that's what I'm going to do. All right, I found my penny stash. So I'm putting all the heads down. And this is the one on this paw that I'm going to make double. You know what? With it double, it's even more sturdy. So maybe it needed 2 pennies. All right, putting this foot down into the glue on top of the next penny. Bringing it around. And I kind of like it that it's going to kind of click when you move it around on the table. Pressing this foot down in. 1 more penny. I am going to put 3 pennies under this paw because that just seemed to really be what it needed. So what a nice way to finish off the feet. It's not even noticeable. I'm going to show you how. All right, so that is just perfectly sturdy. And one more thing, and it's the pom-poms. So on my prototype, I don't want to show you too much of this one because it's different, and I might want to make it a video. So I'm just going to pop this paw in. I made little feet that went on the bottom of the tube and put the little pom-pom on the feet so that it just came forward and made like a really cute little paw. So we're going to do I'm sorry, I was got my mouth away from the microphone, so you might not have heard, but this one we can do by either just putting our penny right down onto the pom-pom now. So you might want to put the pom-poms under your pennies, see if you like that, because there's two ways we can do it. If we do it this way, the penny's not going to be down on the table anymore, but it's still sturdy. Or we can bring it on to the front of our paw like this to make it look like a little paw comes forward, and that's the way I like to do it. So with it right down on the table, let me see if there's any way to get a... Okay, so with it right on the table, I'm going to just put this like this, glue it on, being careful not to over glue it where it comes out. I have my triple penny right here to my single pennies on the other feet. That's how far off I was. Okay, so I have a little white yarn ends here where I think they tie this pom-pom together. So I'm going to bring that, I'm going to take my pom-pom, slide it on my table till it comes right up to the end of my foot. Get a tiny, tiny little bead up onto. Once it's like this and it's straight on the table, I'm going to roll it back and put one little tiny spot of glue right here to hold it up against its foot to make it look like the paw's coming forward. So let me just do the first one. About this much glue coming at it right on the table, right up against it. That's my little paw. It's cute, right in the front of it. Makes it look like the little paw pad is coming up. I don't have a cat anymore to look at, but maybe you do. Okay, bringing this one right up onto the edge of it. Getting glue on my cutting board. Next one. And this hides the triple penny really, really well. So that's how we're putting them on, and they kind of look like this. They look like little feet coming forward. It's just so cute. After I get all four of them on, I might roll the pom-pom back just a little bit to see if I need to put a little spot up here to hold it up. I want to hold it up onto the leg rather than flopping down. So you can see how it's level here, level with the table. All right, and then one more little option and we can call it a wrap. So I'm finishing up my feet by wrapping some fur yarn around it. And that just hides the back where the penny is. It just gives it a little extra something coming up over the feet. It looks really adorable. And if you want to trim it just a tiny little bit, if you think it's too long, whatever. But it hides those pennies and gives you the opportunity. If you come back and you think your butt is a little low or something like that, you can still put some more pennies under it, and the pennies hold really, really well with the glue. So if you thought, oh, I wish I'd raised my back up a little bit, just glue a couple little pennies back there. That's what I'm doing. It's a really good way to fine tune. The first time I used cardboard that I cut in circles, and it was the kind that Amazon's boxes are made out of, but that's hard to do, and a penny's so perfectly sized and shaped. So that wraps up our feet. If you choose to do the little fur around it, just glue across the top, angle it down around the back, and I went over the top. I started at the top, angled it down, went across the back, came up, and went over the top until I got to right here, and then cut it off. So I had just a little extra furriness over the top of that paw pad. And I'm going to finish up my feet and then show you one more option for the face. Totally your decision whether or not you want to risk, be adventuresome and do this one last little thing. All right, so this is my final little thing. And I think I do it to make myself happy, my daughter happy, to give them eyebrows. She just loves it when they have eyebrows. So I have it's a couple little yarn tails that I cut off when we were doing some of the other work on it. So I just started right where my eye comes up. And on mine, I have the little eyelid. So I'm just going to wrap it around the eyelid, and it comes down, almost touches its cheek. And this will not, the hot glue does not stick good to that plastic for some reason. So if you're brave, I'm just going to put it on the yarn right above my eye and then lay this. I want to have my loom pick ready to go so I can press it in with the tip of this. I'm going to put my reading glasses on. Running a thin little bead right up here, coming a little bit down past the eye because I know where my eyebrow is going to start and stop. Okay, right here on the edge, into the fur, right down to its little cheek. I'm going to take my loom pick, make sure it's off of my eyelid and going onto my onto my 4-ply, so I get a good adhesion. I don't know why it doesn't stick to the plastic, but it does not. And there's an adorable little eyebrow. I'll just, if I shorten down the fur right on the front here just a tiny little bit, so I don't end up with a unibrow. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one. And then we can do a couple little adornments up here on the head, or call it a day. You could call it a day a long time ago if you don't want to put pom-pom feet and eyelashes and things like that on it. So I'm going to do the other eye the same way. Okay, so I put just a few little pom-poms up on its head just to give it a little something. And now is our chance to pull that head back. So I just have my matching yarn. I'm going to come a couple stitches back, go deep into my tube, tie a knot right here. I'm going to come up into my head, go deep, go under a couple rows, and just pull it back, and that straightens up the head. I'm going to come underneath a couple rows here. I'm on my, not on the head tube. It's pulled down, coming up one more time. And that just pulls the little head back just a little bit. Yours may or may not need that. So I am going to say thank you for watching. I hope you'll like, subscribe, and actually give us the watch time hours that we need to get funded for Margaret's House, which is a wonderful restoration center for women who are in crisis, who've been molested, abused, and had unimaginable things happen to them. And we give them all the tools they need to remake themselves into a wonderful woman and to be proud of themselves. So God bless you, and I am going to now film the beginning of this tutorial.